Now, the government launches its Kickstart scheme this morning aimed at helping young people into work. Joining us now is the Work and Pensions Secretary, Thérèse Coffey. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Stig.
The British Chambers of Commerce has said that to be successful, Kickstart needs to create long-term quality employment opportunities. And clearly that's what your government is interested in. But this is a 6-month scheme. How does that translate to a long-term opportunity?
Well, we've got a great opportunity for employers, whether they're in private businesses, the public sector, charities, and similar, in order to help people get onto the first rung of that jobs ladder. I'm very conscious of the many challenges young people are facing. We need to make sure that people try and get that work experience with real jobs. And I think that this boost, where we can have a mutually beneficial arrangement where employers can get some effectively 25 hours of free labour, but also the young people get some extra support, wraparound support, which will help them develop their skills and make them well prepared for the next phase of their careers.
You say that this money is going to go to 250,000 young people will get this support, but the figures show that under 25s on universal credit has nearly doubled to more than 500,000. How are you going to pick these 250,000 people that are going to get help?
Well, everybody who wants to take advantage of the Kickstart offer has to be referred through the Job Centre Plus network. I think that there's a variety of options open to young people. Of course, there have been incentives for things like companies to take on apprentices, which is a different path for people to take. But certainly the opportunity is here. We're opening up the website today. We're sharing our information with potential young people, but of course with the employers who we hope will now come forward and expect actually to. There are already some businesses heavily engaged, and we can. I'm sure we can get this off to a flying start with young people starting their first posts in November.
If more than 250,000 people apply for this, would you be able to extend it, do you think?
Well, there is no cap to the number of placements. The Chancellor in July talked about a certain amount of investment. I think it was about £2 billion, which is where the 250,000 figures you've referred to has come from. But this is not about setting targets or, say, having a cap. We really want this scheme to flow. And as I say, this is one of the options which may be open to young people, because it's really important that we help them get into work, having that connection, building their confidence. But this is a huge boost for businesses and organisations as well, where we can make sure, as I say, this is mutually beneficial, helps the economy, helps young people, and I'm confident Kickstart will be a great success.
Let's talk about the jobs market overall, because whenever this scheme ends and if people don't get access to it, it's the jobs market that they'll be entering into. And other people will be entering into that is of great concern to people. The furlough scheme is tapering off. Have you got a sense in your department of how many jobs could be lost over the coming 3 to 6 months because of coronavirus?
Well, as you've said, Stig, the furlough scheme, which is starting to phase down, has been important in making sure that we keep as many people connected to their employers as possible. Look, the different incentives that have been going on, the cut in VAT, the different support that's already been given to businesses, is there to help give them confidence and time to react to how the economy unfolds. We are seeing many more people going back to work. We are starting to see, real confidence that happened with the hospitality sector. And it's those sorts of stimulations where we want to make sure that businesses and indeed consumers have the confidence to go out, to keep supporting the economy. And that is the way that we will actually help in the medium and long term, so that young people who we are specifically targeting today with Kickstart will have the opportunities that you set out in the future.
But do you have a sense of the possible job losses? Because presumably for forward planning in your department, you must have planned out what's going to happen. Do you have a number in mind of what you believe the unemployment level will be over the next 3 months, for example?
We're planning at different levels of scenario, but this is just a fast-moving situation. I think I'm not going to get into speculation.
Why not? But sort of numbers are interesting and they're important to people because they have a sense of where you feel the economy is going to get to.
Well, I'm not going to get into specific details on different scenarios because the situation changes weekly. We are regularly in touch with national employers. We do see signs of concern that were happening and have been happening in retail. That's why we're doing different sorts of stimulus. But I think this is an exciting opportunity to try and get people into the employment market. But of course, we are preparing for different scenarios. That's why we're doubling the number of work coaches At the moment, I think we've taken on now about 3,500 to 4,000 new work coaches, other support staff, and 799 of our 804 DDBP sites around the country are open for business to offer that support to people.
Is there an argument that the sort of, different sectors all respond differently, as you're saying it's a fast moving environment? Does that mean that you should have the flexibility, for example, to extend furlough more in different sectors, to get to actually to target sectors differently?
Well, I think that the furlough scheme has done what it was supposed to do to have that initial stimulus over the first 6 to 7 months of something that we'd never ever faced before. Now, as I say, there have been some more targeted interventions. But if you think about things like the aviation industry, and I don't just mean people going on holiday, but there are different dynamics there. And for some of those people, it may be that that economy doesn't, or that sector doesn't fully recover in perhaps for another 2 or 3 years. So in the meantime, we want to try and help people keep in work. That's why we have our swaps program, where people might actually take their skills, see how they can transfer them into other careers, even if that's on a short-term basis. But those are the sorts of interventions where we can help people where at the moment their own chosen business or sector is not at the stage it's going to be for a little while yet.
The question I often ask on this program, and nobody really wants to answer, so we'll see if you break the trend here. The IFS have said this morning a fairly substantial increase in taxes that affect everyone is likely to pay for all of these steps the government is taking. How are we going to pay for all of this, all of the very costly schemes that you are announcing today and you're continuing over the next few months?
Well, clearly, later in the year, the Chancellor will be doing a further budget. There's a lot of work going on with the Treasury, with departments on different elements of that we will be announced. And to be honest, you will hear the budget at exactly the same time as me.
Yeah.
But it's a case of the what we do want to do is to try and get people, as saying, schools have reopened, getting people back into full work like they were doing before in a COVID-safe environment. And it's those sorts of things that will start to see the economy and aspects of tax revenues flowing back into the system. So this is, a strong step forward today, particularly focused on young people. But you're right, Stig, we still have a lot to do right across the board to make sure our economy gets back on track.
But you're not ideologically opposed to tax rises. You at least accept that they have to be considered.
I would point out to you, Stig, that in the past, when we've actually cut tax rates, we've actually seen taxes increase. So tax rates is a very dynamic situation, and we need to make sure that the Chancellor has the best opportunities when he announces to the country in actually quite a short time on the next stages.
So there could be tax cuts.
Recovery.
There could be tax cuts. You're saying.
I'm not going to get into speculation, Stig, because
I thought you did then. I thought you speculated just then.
No, I was just saying in the past when people assume that some people might assume that the only way to get tax up is to increase tax rates. Actually, we've shown in our economic history the opposite. So a lot of this is about making sure we try and get investment going again in this country. We've got a great offer around the world. Trade deals are, still underway with likes of Japan and similar. So it's quite a really challenging time. We still have to recognise the coronavirus is present. We need to tackle that, and we'll keep tackling it. But there's certainly plenty to do, and this is another way, as I say, helping the economic recovery, getting some new additional jobs created, and helping our young people get on in life.
And just finally, do you think that people, generally speaking, will work better if they're in the office rather than at home?
I think it varies. I think we're seeing, I say, just over half of our DWP workforce are back fully in the office, but we need to work within the capacity that we have. And I know that people have been very creative in how they try and work with each other, but I do think there is a dynamic that often works, especially when you have changes in teams, on how you have that relationship with each other. So this is really not, the government isn't trying to tell exactly every employee or employer how to run their businesses or their organisations, but it is important that people are safe when they go back to work. Employers are leading on that, and that's a dynamic which they need to work out on what's best for their businesses.
Thérèse Coffey, thank you very much indeed as the Work and Pensions Secretary there.